Hi there folks, and welcome to this episode of Michael's 3D World. We're back, and my print farm has gotten noisy again. Now, if you've seen the previous video, I unboxed Ender 3 Pro that I picked up as a flash sale on Amazon. I think it was around just over 200 bucks, barely over 200 bucks. But you hear this thing going, making all kinds of noise. Well, that's fine, but this thing prints beautifully. It's been doing a fantastic job, but I can't help myself. I can't help it. I want to make it quiet. I want to make it super reliable. It hasn't proven to be unreliable yet. And it's printing right now one of its improvements and upgrades. I told you that I was going to do the research on this particular Ender 3 Pro. It says it right there, Ender 3 Pro. That I was going to do something different, and I was going to make this machine as if this was my only machine I had in my possession, that I would do all the upgrades, make this machine print all of its own upgrades, and so far it's working out fantastic. As you can see, sneak preview here, there's one of its upgrades right here. Very simple one. It's one of the first ones I printed because, as you can see here, this filament comes from the top, and I want this to guide around instead of pulling hard on this guide on the side here. It's guiding it in straight and taking some stress off of the filament here. As you can see here, it's the other thing rocks. Right now it's printing a guide roller up here. I've done this on other ones that actually has a ball bearing up here and lets this flow smoothly. Takes a lot more stress off that drive and pull. So it's currently printing a new style, not the ones that I've done in the past. It's going to be a new style, and those things will all be in the description down below. The links to Thingiverse, the links to Amazon, the links to everything that I use in this process will be below. Feel free to check those out. It doesn't cost you a dime to click on those links. It doesn't cost you a dime to use those links to go to Amazon and make those purchases, so you can buy exactly what I bought and use exactly what I'm using, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you step by step how to do all this stuff. I get so excited about this stuff, guys. I'm bursting. You can't tell. I'm bursting. I'm spit talking. I'm so excited about it. Anyway, this is so cool. The things we're doing here. You guys might say, well, I've seen where these spools are all shoved down on the side here. You know, and this one was. You know what? I put it back. I put it back up and I printed its own thing. I haven't put it on here yet. I've got some other upgrades I'm doing to this Ender 3. So I've got here in my arsenal, I have an Ender 3 Pro. I have an old, about 2-year-old Ender 3. I got a couple of CR10s here in the background. And back there printing ABS. If you've seen my other videos where I put an enclosure, I'm printing ABS. I just picked up ABS from a guy about 50 miles away from me that just last night, and that he couldn't print ABS on his Ender 3 Pro. And that's fine. Where'd that come from? Anyway, I bring it home. I throw this ABS on the printer back there. It's printing like a dream because you got to have an enclosure. If you don't have an enclosure, don't try to print ABS, ASA, or other high temperature materials. It just won't work as well as an enclosure will. Anyway, more to come on enclosures in the near future. I've got some stuff coming from a company called Wellman. Stay tuned for a video for them guys. It's going to be epic. It's a whole new, it's called a Wham Bam Hot Box. I'm going to test it and give a feedback and a review and a video on that particular item. So, anyway, let's get back to this guy. We're going to print, and I did something really cool here. I've got a roll of orange PLA. I'm printing everything out of PLA. And so when we go through the upgrades to this particular machine, it's going to be clear and easy to see all the different upgrades because they're all going to be in orange. And I've got some really cool ones that I'm going to tell you what I feel were the best upgrades for this machine and the most economical upgrades for this machine and why I made the upgrades. Everything I'm doing has a reason. If it's just something that's like, oh, I want to put an orange little hangy-dangy off here so I can look at a flipperty-dob. No, I'm not going to do that crap. I'm going to do stuff that really needs, that you really want to have on here to make it better, to make it last longer, to make it, you know, all those things. Checks all the boxes, right? Everybody does. Anyway, I could go on for a long time. I get a lot, people give me a lot of crap about how you so much talk and fluff in the beginning of these videos, but I'm excited about it, folks, and I want you to get excited about it. I mean, you just bought one of these things and you want to learn how to use it to the best of its ability. So let's jump in. Let's show you, my furniture's kicked on. let me show you all the different pieces that I'm creating. I'm going to show you in this sequence. I'm going to show you the parts. I'm going to put them together, and then I'm going to assemble them, and I'll show you on the machine. You know, we're going to go back and forth, and I'll go through in detail why I did what I did here. So, without further ado, let's jump in and look at part number 1. Okay, let's talk about the first one here. This is going to be the guide roller. This is the one you'd want to print first if you have this machine, and you can go ahead and install it on your machine before you start printing all the rest of your upgrades. Now, what I like about this one, it's a very nice one. It's going to be on Thingiverse. It's going to be a link below in the description. This has a few pieces here. This is a kit here. Is a kit. I'll have a link in the description for this stainless steel metric screw kit. It's nice because I've gone to this thing. You see in the bottom here, there's a ton of pieces in here. According to this, 1080. I'm not doubting. There's a lot of little pieces, and I've used a lot of them. Now this is a 4mm screw, socket head cap screw, stainless. This is 14 millimeters long. This works out perfect for this particular assembly. And this is a ABIX. What is it? It's not ABIX. It's a 608 series bearing. Yeah, it's an ABIC bearing. It's like a skateboard wheel bearing. Moves very freely. So you need that. This will be in the description as well. You usually buy these in a pack of like 20. You ain't gonna believe this, but I've gone through probably, for all my machines, I've probably gone through at least 24 of these bearings so far. Anyway, this is gonna press down inside here. We'll push that inside there first. This bearing is gonna push in pretty tight. So once you got that bearing installed, and the other thing I did here is you want these to be able to slip through. When they print off, the ones from Thingiverse, they don't slip through. So what I did is I threaded it in here, and you just bottom it out, and you just keep tightening it until you honestly strip the threads out so it spins freely down here, and then you can back it right back off and clean off the excess off the screw is what I did to make this work and assemble easily. The other cool part about this particular piece here is it does have a hex designed into it that will fit your 4mm nut, and it should just push in there snugly as well. Once it's in there nice and snug like that, you're ready to assemble. So these little spacers here go inside. So this is, like I said, this is a very simple upgrade. You go like that, then we'll put our screw through to hold it all together. So this makes a very nice assembly. Seems very robust and will last the life of your machine, it would be my guess. So we're going to go ahead and screw that in there. It'll pick up the thread on that nut, and it just sucks everything together nice and snug, just like that. All right, I had to go back into my bolt box because the M4x14 did not fit. It didn't come through, it barely caught a thread. So the 18mm long one worked better. So that's what I got in there. As you can see, that moves really freely. Let's go and install this on the machine and show you what it looks like in place. Now where this goes on the Ender 3, it could be on the Ender 3 V2, Ender 3 Pro, or just the plain old Ender 3. Is this right here, this little bracket here, the way it's designed, that slides right on it, and once it gets into that far, it actually pushes on quite snug. See if I can hold the camera and get it on there at the same time. But that goes and pushes right in place like that, nice and tight. That's not going anywhere. Now what that's going to do is this filament's going to come right through at a level spot. All right, as you can see now, it's hard to see here. That's why I'm doing it on the orange one over here. Let's move over to it. It's in operation. As you can see now, the filament comes down off the spool, makes a harsh turn, but the harsh turn is now mellowed by a nice frictionless roller. It lets this thing just roll on by. So as you can see, I've got it on my Ender 3 Pro now. It's in operation, and while I'm in the middle of printing more upgrades for this particular machine. And I've already put one over here on my old Ender 3. That's the one we just installed. I'm going to use it going forward since I now moved the spool back up on top again. There is another one on Thingiverse that has a dual roller design. That this sits down a little lower and it comes between the two rollers. But from what I can tell, it's not a necessary evil on this particular machine. This one works just fine. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I like the way that turned out. Now, let's move on to the next upgrade. That's upgrade number 1. Something else I didn't mention, this isn't an upgrade, this is a tool holder I designed. So I've got all my tools that came with the machine. I got my Allen wrenches, the nippers, the pliers, the 2 wrenches, and the putty knife. in my little tool holder here sitting on my bench. A lot of people like to hang these on the machine or have this on the machine. I don't want tools hanging on the machine. I don't want to drop things on my table. I like having these off to the side and to the back. So that was one of the first ones that I printed. I've got one of these on every one of my machines that I designed it. It'll be in Thingiverse as well. It's just a little tool caddy, tool holder. If you don't like it, don't print it. That's all I got to say about that. Back over here to the tools. I think I mentioned this about every video because I just love this kit to death. My son turned me onto this. It's called the IFIXIT kit. These have a magnetic, has a magnetic driver here, and it's got all the different hexes, Phillips, straight blades, little mini socket heads, and it's got a driver that has a ball bearing on the end. Very handy for when you're putting stuff together, so you can sit there and just hold on to it and spin things in. Anyway, and it's got a magnetic piece here, so you can actually set it on top of that if you want, or it holds it. And this is also could be a parts tray, and it's also a lid that stays in place like that. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Now we're ready for mod number 2. Since we made a guide that makes it easier for the filament to get into the extruder, now we want to take some of that pressure up above off, where that thing's just rolling on a hard piece of plastic and having to slide that spool along. When the spool weighs full weight, has a little bit of resistance. So we got 2 of the 608 bearings here, like we used in that other one, and this sits right in here like that. So now this is going to be free rolling, and we got a nut printed. This is all in Thingiverse. Let's swap out the original for this guy right here. Let's do that now. All right, let's go ahead and set this aside. And remove this one. Now, this will roll. It won't uncoil itself, but it would also let this thing roll. Instead of before, when it would go, it'd sit there and bounce and do this because it was rocking it, because it was putting pressure here. Now when you pull on it, it's just going to roll and stay. But it's not going to take all this pressure off here. It's not free rolling as just being on a full free floating bearing. So that'll work just fine. That's a snazzy looking setup there. Whoever designed that on Thingiverse, kudos. Links below. Let's check out mod number 3. All right, the next upgrade is this fan. This fan's noisy. Not that this machine is extremely quiet anyway, but this is one of the upgrades I want to do because typically these fans don't last a crazy long time, and these Noctua fans do. So we've got a Noctua 60 millimeter by 25, I think. It's the A6 by 25. It's a 12 volt fan, 6-year manufacturer's warranty. So we're going to put that in. So I printed a case. This will all be below in Thingiverse. All these components will be. This is going to go in here and replace this and let me install this 60 in place of that one, and it'll be quieter. So we're going to go ahead and remove the screws that we installed on the front of this machine originally to hold the power supply in place. Now make sure while you're doing this, folks, that you have unplugged the power from the power supply. And we're going to go ahead and take these 2 screws out that we had put in when we installed this. All right, we're putting the Noctua fan in. We're only going to use the black and the yellow wire. And this is already a 12 volt. That was a 12 volt. So all I'm going to do is adapt this plug that came off of here, going to splice it onto here, so this is a direct plug-in. We're going to do that now. All right, folks, I'm going to attempt to tell you what I did here. So I went ahead and put this fan shroud on, and I thought, well, I'm going to be back in here trying to tap this power supply one more time to do something I haven't done before on my channel, which was tap into these 24-volt terminals here to run my Raspberry Pi. So when I flip this on, my Pi comes on, the system comes on, I turn this off, everything turns off. I don't have to have a separate switch, separate plug to run my Raspberry Pi. And there's a good chance I might go back and redo my other printers to do this exact same thing. We'll see. But this is my test one, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work so far. So this is a 12-volt fan. The previous, 12-volt fan. The previous fan was a 12-volt fan, so it's just a direct plug-in. Easy peasy. I spliced in the connector wire onto the black and the yellow wire on the Noctua fan, and that'll give me everything I need to have happen there. Now come right here. Let's see if I can get you in here. It's going to be kind of tight to see. I'll show you as much as I can here, folks. Right here, these are your two wires that are coming off and going to the bed heater, right? So these are two heavy-duty wires, 24 volts going through there, running to your heater. Well, all three of these are 23 volt positive, and all of these are the grounds over here. So what I did is I tapped into another positive and another negative. Now you guys are going to tell me, Michael, black's not positive. Well, because of the way this is hooked up, I had to use it that way. I'm just using wires that I already had. So anyway, I crimped and soldered on, put some heat shrink tubing, and fastened that down. So now I've tapped into 24 volts here. And I'm going to show you real quick. Yeah, I can hold it right here. Let me see if I can do it while I'm holding it. So I'm going to go ahead and power this thing on. I've just turned the power supply on. I've got it plugged in. And I'm going to show you that this here is 23.9 volts. So that's what we got there. And then, so what I did is I tapped into that wire, and see I've got another lead coming off of here that I'm coming through the same hole that where you're hooking your bed into, and I'm coming right into a buck converter. Converts the power from 24 volt, and you can turn this little screw counterclockwise as you're looking down on it and dial this voltage down to 5 volts, which is what I did, 5.1. And then it goes right over here to my my Raspberry Pi, and I'm using the first pin and the third pin. The first pin is your positive, second pin is a positive. I'm not using that one. Third pin is a negative. So yeah, my positive in this case is black, and my negative in this case is yellow. I've carried that all the way from the board that way. And so when you power this up, you'll see the Raspberry Pi comes on, or the converter comes on, buck converter, and you'll see my Raspberry Pi come on. You'll see the green light flashing here. I do have an SD card in here that is flashed. I just don't have it hooked to a machine right now, but yeah, it's booting up. So all this is working exactly how I want it. This is amazing and cool and awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and power it back off. And the next step I'm going to show you in this process, I've printed this housing. And this housing is for your display and control. Now, you can print a cover to cover this, which is what a lot of people do, but I found a cover on Thingiverse, and this will be in the links below as well, that'll let this Raspberry Pi, let me show you. So now you can see why I'm excited. The Raspberry Pi sits right down in there. I'm going to put a couple screws to hold it down in here. The buck converter can now live underneath this housing as well, and this control fits right like this. And now you've got your back protected. I can't hold it in place. I'm trying to do this one-handed. Now you've got it protected. It bolts right in place where it was before. And and all this is all contained under here. So now the only thing I'm going to have is my USB cord coming out the back here, because you can see your USB slots are back here. This is going to come out of here and go right into the front of the machine, and it keeps the wiring all nice and tidy and behind the machine and not a lot of wires hanging out. So I'm excited about that. Let's get finished assembling this and putting it back on the machine with all the butt converter and the Raspberry Pi all in place, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to button it all up. I'm going to put you back up on the stand. You're going to watch me do it in time lapse, and we'll see how this thing all looks when we're done. Okay there, folks, we've done a lot of really cool upgrades to this thing so far, and there's one upgrade left. I hope you stayed with me this long, because this next upgrade, in my opinion, is the most important to me, because it reduces the noise. But before we go over that, let's take another quick look around at what we've done so far. So far we put this guide on here, which means the filament can come down around the roller and shoot straight into the extruder. We have put, we'll get you in here close. Let's get you in here real close. We put a roller guide on here, which is really nice because it keeps this filament, every time it moves ahead, it doesn't sit there going rut, like you see them do. We have done, these are simple upgrades. These are some simple ones. We're going to start off with the simple stuff, and we'll go to more complex ones here. So we got that one, that one. What you see on here, let's see if I can raise this up a little bit for you here. Let's bring her on up high. So what we've done is this little upgrade here. And what it does is this replaces the factory little fan diverter to cool your filament down when it comes out. But this is what it looks like. It's got two screws right here, one here, one here, one here. And it just hooks underneath the lip there, goes underneath there, bolts right in place, uses your existing screws. So simple, 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 simple. Also, not so simple just yet, but it will be. Let's go around and look at the other super simple thing. A couple of clips. These are all being links below in Thingiverse, but little clips that snap right onto here to keep your ribbon cable nice and tidy. Now the one more complicated one is this guy right here. Now what I'm going to do is, like I did on my other ender, I'm going to loosen this back up here, right here, and I'm going to take this and tuck it right in. It'll fit right in the groove here. It's pretty slick and it hides really nice, but it makes it clean install. But yeah, we've got the Noctua fan here, super quiet, moves more air than the factory fan that was in there. Wired right in, printed this case on the machine. Everything you see on this machine that's been upgraded has been printed on this machine. This machine printed all of its own upgrades, which is really cool. The one I'm really excited about is this one. You guys seen that earlier? We put the USB. My dogs are going crazy upstairs. I got the dogs and all the puppies upstairs playing. We got one right here. Watch this. Here we go. Look at it. It's the wild Ziva. Just figured her way out. How you doing, Ziva? How you doing, girl? Oh, yes. This was 12-week-old, 11-week-old puppies now. Just a little over 11 weeks old. She's a good girl, aren't you, Ziva? You hear him? Go up get him. Go upstairs and get him. Anyway, back to the show. This is one of my favorite upgrades. I've actually done this on both my enders now, because it puts the USB right in here, nice and tidy, wired, and I've got it direct wired into my power supply, as you saw earlier. That's one of my favorites. And it just makes this whole machine, I can unplug one plug now and move it wherever I want, plug it back in, and you're printing again, wherever you want. But by having this USB in, with the Raspberry Pi here, allows me to put this little light up here. And the light's really cool, right? Now, for the last upgrade, we're going to go into and swap the motherboard out. Yes, right, you heard me, the main motherboard. Alrighty, there I did it. I went ahead and tucked this in, put one little zip tie here, ran it down behind the power supply, comes out underneath here, follows the channel, and isn't that clean and neat? Now this machine's easily picked up and carried and moved anywhere, plugged in, powered up, and ready to print. Now, for this video, these are all the simple mods other than the Raspberry Pi that we hooked up in here. That was the only more complex one. I'll leave a link to the video below that shows you how to hook a Pi up to your printer so you can operate it from your computer. But I think that's what I'm going to call it a day on this one and call it done for now. These are awesome. Like I said, there's a simple mod here, simple mod here. Nice little light we put on here. Simple mod, very simple little clips. A little more complexity here by hooking this up directly to the power supply and putting the mod on the power supply. Anyway, that's for the Ender 3 Pro. You know, like I said before, folks, this thing works beautifully right out of the box. This thing has printed over 20 prints. Several of the prints were over a day and a half prints that I did. So it's a very capable machine, no doubt. Now, the one thing you'll notice, anybody that owns one of these or is thinking about owning one of these or have watched the video, is you will hear this thing whining me back and forth with all the stepper motors making a lot of noise because this does not have a silent board. Well, and the other thing is these fans here are very noisy, and they run. This one runs all the time, and it has a nice sound to it. It just goes all the time. So what I'm going to do, I want you guys to tune in the next video. This will be, the first one was the unboxing. This will be the first upgrades part 1, and this will be upgrades part 2 coming up next. And up next, I'm going to tell you what's coming on this particular machine. We're going to do this. Let me zip you over here. Now you guys see this here? This is one of my favorite upgrades to put on a machine. Is this little it's a thingy universe. I think it's called a Fang type cooler. Let me show you another one I've done over here. It's a different color, be easier to see. This is on my ABS printer that I do all ABS on. But see what that looks like? We're going to do that next. And guess what? I've already pre-printed all my pieces in orange. This is going to go right on here. The other thing I'm going to do, so there's going to be 3 upgrades that you're going to see on the next video that I hope you stay tuned and watch. I'm going to show you how to hook some 40 by 20 Noctua. There'll be 12 volt fans. These are 24 volt fans. 12 volt fans onto here. How to set a buck converter. How to mount this on here. And I'm going to put a Swiss all metal hot end on here. And I'm going to put some Capricorn tubing up here. So that's 1 upgrade. Fans, 2 upgrade. Swiss all metal hot end. Micro Swiss all metal hot end upgrade. And in Creality, I've got a 4.2.7 silent board that we're going to install on this thing, and this machine will be 100% complete the way I like it. So make sure you tune in the next video to see that. Well, guys and gals, I hope that was an enjoyable video for you. Lots of neat stuff here. We went into some detail when we hooked this up, and just had some fun here. Hope this gets you along the ways of upgrading yours if you want to upgrade it. Like I said, you don't have to touch anything. I've done over 20 prints. I printed all the upgrades on this printer before I installed them. And I've printed more upgrades that are coming because, yeah, this is a cool little upgrade here. Simple, blows the air. You can feel it when you blow in there. It blows it out all the way around it. Kind of neat. I like this better. This is going to move a lot more air, and it's going to move it a lot quieter. So that's why this happens. That's why the silent board happens. And what else was I going to do? Oh, the fans. Oh, the Micro Swiss. The Micro Swiss all metal hot end. I've installed this on my older Ender 3, and it's absolutely awesome because you don't have to worry about any thermal creep getting up into your Bowden tube because your Bowden tube's way up here and all the cooling's happening down below. Don't have to worry about the gap between your Bowden tube and your tip and your nozzle, because it doesn't happen here. That's eliminated with this, so that's why this is a great upgrade. Anyway, follow the next video. We're going to do all these upgrades in it. I think you might already have seen maybe on the Ender 3 over here that I've done that hot Micro Swiss hot end upgrade on it, all metal hot end upgrade on it. We're going to do it on this too. Well, there it is. My hot water heater's kicking on. So that's my cue to tell you guys, get out there and have some fun. Don't be afraid to tinker with these things. I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and maybe you're willing to attempt some of these upgrades yourself. Like I said, the Ender 3 Pro is a great little machine all by itself. No complaints, but I just can't leave well enough alone. And if you can't leave well enough alone either, I'm hoping this helps you mess with it in the right way, and get it done right, and you don't have any flaws or mistakes along the way. This is Michael, and I'm out.